All right, thank you guys, and welcome to College Football Week 12. And of course, this is our Pac-12 edition. And as always, my name is Brock Page. It's great to have you here with me today. And with all those pleasantries aside, let's go ahead and dive into some Pac-12 conference action. And we're going to start with Cal squaring off against Oregon State. 3:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff in Corvallis. The Cal Golden Bears are -4 with the total at 49. We're 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on patreon.com/BrockPage. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also 3-1 in our last 4 Underdog tier package plays on that site as well. And if you want to access today's Underdog tier membership, that's only going to cost you just $4.99. We have over 750 members signed up and active on that page. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Cal got blasted this past week against UCLA. That was a 34-10 loss in their season opener. They were actually the 4-point favorite in that contest as well. The Golden Bears threw for a piddly 122 yards through the air, while also gaining a measly 54 yards on the ground. Cal's leading rusher had just 25 yards on the day. Meanwhile, their leading receiver had just 28 yards and no scores. Meanwhile, defensively, the Golden Bear pass rush failed to get to the quarterback once against UCLA. They also gave up 244 yards on the ground. Meanwhile, the Beavers, on the other side of things, they are gaining 145 yards a game on the ground themselves. Running back Jamar Jefferson has 253 rushing yards on the season and 4 scores. Jefferson's averaging 5.8 yards per contest. Let's try that again. Jefferson's averaging 5.8 yards per carry. Oregon State successfully covered the point spread this past week against the Washington Huskies. They were the 14-point underdog and nearly won that one. This Oregon State defense is also allowing just 184 yards a game passing. Defensive back Jaden Grant has an interception and 8 tackles from this Beaver secondary. And linebacker Avery Roberts currently leads the program in tackles with 22 of them. The Beavers have successfully covered the point spread in 4 out of their last 6, hosting the Golden Bears. And when it comes to the total in this one, I wouldn't quite describe either team as offensive juggernauts. Both of these teams saw their most recent outings stay under the line as well. So with all that said and done, give me the underdog Oregon State Beavers +4 at home and the under 49 in that ball game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick timeout and welcome you to the video. Got some lines and personal leans out for College Football Week 12. And of course, once again, this is the Pac-12 edition of College Football Week 12. Now, before we go ahead and dive into some more free content right here on YouTube, just have to quickly remind you once again that we are 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on patreon.com/BrockPage. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also 3-1 in our last 4 Underdog tier package picks on that site as well. And access to the Underdog tier is only going to cost you just $4.99. Now, we currently have over 750 members signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, I would love to have you. And the link for that site is in the description section below. Once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And moving on, we're going to take a look at UCLA squaring off against Oregon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Ducks are the 14-point favorite, total 66 and a hook. The Ducks are 2-0 on this season, and they're scoring a whole bunch of points. Having said that, though, this Oregon defense is allowing nearly 270 yards a game passing. They're also giving up nearly 150 yards a game on the ground. The Ducks have just 1 sack and 0 takeaways through 2 ball games. They also gave up 197 yards rushing in their lone home game this season as well. Now they're taking on a UCLA program who took care of in-state rival Cal by the final of 34-10 this past week. Quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson has thrown for 7 touchdowns through 2 games, and he's just 1 yard shy of 500 yards passing. His favorite target's been tight end Greg Dulcich, who has 7 catches for 206 yards and a touchdown. Dulcich is averaging nearly 30 yards a catch as well, and he's averaging 103 yards receiving a game. UCLA scored 76 total points in their last 2 ball games, 38 points a game they're averaging. The Bruins are also rushing for 210 yards per contest as well. Demetric Felton has carried it 35 times for $164 and a touchdown. Felton's averaging 4.7 yards a carry. Of course, quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson has also gained 161 yards on the ground himself, and he's punched it into the end zone twice rushing. Thompson-Robinson is actually averaging nearly 8 yards per carry. Very dangerous running the ball. And as much as this Bruin defense has struggled in their opener, UCLA has 6 total sacks on the season thus far. Caleb Johnson has 2.5 sacks from that linebacker position, 9 total tackles and an interception for Johnson. Meanwhile, defensive back Stephen Blaylock currently leads the Bruins in tackles with 14 of them. Now, total-wise, UCLA's season opener with Colorado got 34 points above the posted number for that ball game. Meanwhile, Oregon is currently 2-0 to the over themselves, 7-3 to the over in their last 10 ball games. I'm going to lean yet toward another underdog. Give me the underdog UCLA Bruins plus 14 and the over 55. Is it 55.5 or 56.5? Anyway, UCLA Bruins plus 14 and the over in that ball game. All right, next matchup. It is going to be an 8 o'clock game. So we have to scroll down here a little bit as we continue to scroll. Arizona, Washington, 8 p.m. Eastern start time, Husky Stadium. Washington's the 11-point favorite at home, totals 53. The Huskies were challenged by a tough Oregon State team in their opener. The Huskies got the 1-score victory, but they failed to cover the number as the 14-point favorite. Now, Washington threw for just 141 passing yards and 0 touchdowns. Quarterback Dylan Morris completed just 14 of 24 and barely averaged 10 yards a throw. Meanwhile, running back Richard Newton got 15 carries for just 41 yards and no scores. Newton averaged less than 2.8 yards per carry. And as good as the Huskies were against the pass in that ball game, this Washington defense allowed nearly 170 yards rushing. Now they're taking on an Arizona team who put up 30 on USC in their opener themselves. They also gained nearly 450 yards from scrimmage in that ball game. Now, the Wildcats did lose by 4, but they easily covered the 15-point double-digit spread. Now, quarterback Grant Gunnell completed 24 passes for 286 yards and 3 scores. Gunnell's favorite target was wideout Tavian Cunningham, who caught 5 balls for 110 yards and a touchdown. Cunningham averaged 22 yards a reception. Meanwhile, running back Gary Brightwell was also a 100-yard rusher in that ball game as well. Brightwell carried it 21 times for $112. Now, total-wise, 7 out of Arizona's last 10 head-to-head meetings with Washington got over the posted number. I'm going to lean toward yet another underdog. Give me the underdog, Arizona Wildcats, plus 11, and the over 53 in that contest. All right, next matchup, USC squaring off against Utah, 10:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Trojans of USC are minus 3.5, totals 58. This USC defense has given up 57 points in their past couple of games, 208 yards a game on the ground they're giving up as well. The Trojans are 0-2 against the number this season after both of their contests came down to just 1 score. Actually, their opener was a 1-point game. This USC secondary has just 1 interception thus far through 2 games, and the Trojans have failed to cover the point spread in 4 out of their last 6 against Utah. And speaking of the Utes, they're looking forward to playing their first game of the 2020 season. They're very well rested right now. They had a couple COVID cancellations over the past month. Now, Utah did finish their 2019 campaign, winning their final 8 contests before heading into that conference championship game against Oregon. The Utes are a perfect 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 ball games at home. They also successfully covered the number in 8 out of their last 9 conference games as well. I'm going to lean toward yet another underdog. Give me the underdog Utah Utes plus 3.5 and the under 58 in that game. And with that, we're going to dive into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Washington State, Stanford, 10:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Stanford Cardinal is -2 at home, total 64.5. Stanford's lost their last 2 straight to open up the season. They gave up 35 points to Colorado and Oregon, respectively, in those contests. 70 total points in those 2 games. Stanford also failed to cover the point spread in both of those losses as well. This Cardinal defense is giving up nearly 225 yards a game on the ground and over 460 total yards a game. The Stanford pass rush has only been able to muster up just 1 sack thus far in the season as well. The Cardinal has failed to cover the number in their last 6 straight conference ball games, really struggling in the Pac-12. They've also failed to cover the point spread in their last 5 straight hosting the Cougars. And speaking of Wazoo, they've scored 77 total points in their last 2 contests themselves, 274 yards passing and 165 rushing on average per contest. Quarterback Jaden DeLaura has thrown for 548 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's got 2 wide receivers with over 200 yards receiving already. Wideout Renard Bell has 16 grabs for 218 and a touchdown. Bell's averaging 14 yards a catch and 109 yards receiving a game. Meanwhile, wide receiver Travell Harris has 16 catches for 201 yards and a couple of scores himself. Senior running back Deion McIntosh has also gained 239 yards and scored twice through just a couple of games himself. McIntosh is averaging 7 yards a carry and 120 yards a game rushing. And as much as they've struggled in certain spots, this Wazoo defense has gotten to the quarterback 5 times and has forced a trio of turnovers. Defensive back Daniel Isom has 16 total tackles along with a pass breakup from that secondary. And linebacker Jihad Woods has 16 total tackles along with a sack and a forced fumble. The Cougs are once again 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 ball games at Stanford. And when it comes to the total in this one, Washington State has gone 2-0 to the over thus far in the season. They're also 6-1 to the over in their last 7 conference ball games. Of course, that stat dating back to last season. Meanwhile, Stanford on the other side is 2-0 to the over themselves, 80% to the over in their last 10 contests. Once again, that dates back to last season as well. Why not? Let's finish off with another underdog. Give me the underdog Washington State Cougars +2 and the over 64.5 in that matchup. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind, we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.